Well, thank you very much for this opportunity for us at RIB CCS to share our thoughts with you on how 60 BIM can power sustainability in the construction industry. I am Andrew Skudder and I am the CEO of RIB CCS, and I'd like to share with you today some thoughts on what is the case for an integrated 6D BIM. How does our M2 solution lead this charge in terms of integrated 6D BIM? Thirdly, I want to speak to you about end-to-end 6D BIM project management. I'd then like to share with you how specifically M2 contributes to carbon reduction. And finally, just wrap up with some thoughts around M2 as a leading construction innovation player. So getting started, what is the case for integrated BIM? And we're really proud as a business to have a very clear vision, which is to digitally transform the engineering and construction industry for future generations to come. Because everything that we do is about digitizing the industry to make it a more productive, a more efficient, and a more sustainable industry, so that we can deliver more projects on time, on budget, so that the limited resources we have as a society can go further and build more infrastructure that will contribute to the societal well-being and socioeconomic growth at the end of the day. And we are confident that we can achieve our mission and are uniquely positioned to reach our mission, because we have a business of being in this game of digitizing the construction industry for over 35 years, starting out as a division within a large construction company in South Africa, and now becoming a totally global business with clients in over 80 countries and over 40,000 users across the globe. We're also very proud to be part of the RIB Software Group, a German listed software company that has a very similar history to ours of over 50 years in delivering software solutions to the construction industry. And more importantly, recently, RIB have been acquired by Schneider Electric. And Schneider Electric is a truly global player with over 25 billion euros in revenue and over 135 employees. And this is really important for us as a business, because this means that there's going to be more investment in products, in support, and in service of our organization. And the reason we've been a successful business is those four other things on the slide. Firstly, fit-for-purpose software. We only develop software for the construction and engineering industry. No other vertical do we touch. So we're a fit-for-purpose software solution. And our software is built and designed and developed by contractors for contractors, which goes to say that about 80% of our staff come from within the construction industry, which means that we understand our clients intimately, and everything that we do in terms of our software and our support of that is really through specialized, unrivaled industry specialization. And we're very proud to continuously develop our solutions, both here in South Africa and globally, which is really fantastic for the region. So we as a business are really proud to have, as I mentioned, clients in over 80 countries and many in sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, 50% of our revenue comes from the sub-Saharan African region. And why this is important is that we're able to bring global expertise to the local markets that we operate in, while recognizing the importance of local markets and the nuances in those markets. So we bring all that global advantage to our clients in these regions. And this is borne out by this slide, which highlights some of the key clients that we have globally. You'll be familiar with many of those names. These are the leading clients in the markets that we operate in, from Southern Africa to the Middle East to Portugal to UK, Australia and New Zealand, and of course India. Key markets that we operate in, and these are the organizations that trust us around our software solutions each and every day. So that's a bit of an introduction into our business. Now, the key thing that our industry is facing are many challenges. We are a very mature industry, but in many respects, we are faced with challenges that have been with us for decades. And one of those challenges is lagging productivity growth. In fact, over the last 2 decades, we as an industry have only grown at about 1% per annum versus about 2.5% across all industries. So we're lagging behind other industries in terms of productivity. And this isn't good for our clients and for our businesses at the end of the day. In addition to this, as you know, we operate in a really risky environment of high risk, yet we're getting very low returns as a consequence of that. And we're not in a position to enhance those margins because we're not protecting those margins. We're not managing change effectively. We're not managing different resource types to get to a more efficient type of construction. And we're managing unstructured data, which doesn't help us get insight into what we're doing. The consequences of these things is that we as an industry actually have a low client satisfaction rating. And the reason is, as you can see in the statistics there, we often go over budget and over time in terms of our projects. And as a consequence, our clients aren't getting the assets that they require on time to get a decent ROI for themselves. And it's incredibly frustrating when you're having to pay more for something that you originally wanted. But we as the contractors often bear the burden of that additional time and money that's spent. It hits our bottom lines at the end of the day. So we have to do something more to grow our efficiency so that we can enhance the satisfaction of our clients. And of course, construction projects are incredibly complex ventures. You know, there's so many stakeholders involved in a product, from the client to the engineers, the quantity surveyors, the main contractor, the subcontractors, and the whole supply chain that leads to this. And as a consequence, there's a huge amount of moving parts in the construction projects, and we don't necessarily have the tools to deal with this. In fact, we as an industry have a tool set mindset, which means to say that different people in different roles within an organization and across the various stakeholders have a specific tool for a specific job. For example, an estimating tool that isn't connected to planning, that isn't connected to document management. And as a consequence, you get these data silos across an organization and across a value chain. And that leads to a lack of collaboration. And collaboration is one of the best ways to enhance productivity in an organization and an industry. And this is all borne out by the fact that the construction industry is one of the least digitized industries in the world. In fact, it's second only to hunting and agriculture. And this is because much of the data that we use as an industry is unstructured. We continue to use tools instead of platforms. We don't use integrated solutions. And as a consequence, there's a huge amount of time that's wasted by construction workers. In fact, there's an FMI report that says that 13% of construction team workers' hours are wasted looking for project data, which is an enormous waste of time. They should rather be analyzing data, making better decisions, and actually getting the projects done on time and to budget. And of course, COVID has been a significant contributor to change in our industry. But the reality is that the big issues that still face our industry of ongoing recession and the big thing that impacts each and every single one of us, climate change, are still real priorities for our industry and us as humanity. And why it's important for the construction industry is that 38% of global energy-related CO2 emissions comes from our industry. About 10% of that comes through the embodied carbon during the construction phase, and about 28% during the operation of an asset. But we as contractors and all the stakeholders in the industry have a huge role to play to minimize carbon emissions through better design, better project delivery, and of course better operations and maintenance of the assets that we build. So COVID has had a huge impact on accelerating transformation in the industry. In fact, prior to COVID, 90% of industry leaders believe that the industry needs to change now and that it is more acute now than it was 5 years ago. And 80% of industry participants believe that the industry is going to be radically different in 20 years' time. Post-COVID and the crisis that we've been through, this has been accelerated, with 2/3 of industry leaders saying the COVID crisis has accelerated transformation, and 50% of them have actually started to increase in investment in transformation journeys for their businesses. So the imperative to change is so much higher now than it's ever been. And I think it's a really great space for us all to be part of in a new and innovative industry. And so we face all these challenges. But the good news is that there are solutions to these challenges. And there are broadly two categories of solutions that I look at. Firstly, industrialization, and the second, digitalization. And we as a BIM community and BIM Harambee and organizations like ourselves focus on the digitalization, but industrialization is really important for transformation in the industry. But we as a community are focusing on digitalization. And you can see some of the technologies that are leading the way in terms of digitalization, cloud computing, moving from on-premise to clouds, mobile technology. Many of the clients we speak to have a mobile-first, cloud-first strategy, and it's really important. Building information modeling, and of course BIM, it's at the heart of why we're here today, is a key technology. Then emerging technologies are virtual reality and augmented reality, where you can actually transpose models over buildings and use those technologies to interface with data and information. Data analytics and artificial intelligence are a huge driver of transformation today. We're gathering more and more data in our industry, and these two things are really key to make insights into that. And then finally is this emergence of integrated technology platforms. So essentially, McKinsey's spoken about there being two plays in terms of digitalization, a toolset play and a platform play. Toolsets are the ones I referred to before, tools that are used for specific roles or specific projects. Integrated platforms are what transcend an entire organization and sometimes an entire value chain. And it's this space that we as RIB play in. So when one looks at this graph from the World Economic Forum, looking at the future impact and likelihood of new technologies, what's really pleasing to see is that their analysis has said that integrated BIM has the highest likelihood of being successful and is likely to have an extremely high level of impact. And that's wonderful for us to know as a community. And for us as an organization who focuses on integrated BIM, it's really exciting that we've got the support of an entity like World Economic Forum that is saying you're on the right track. But integrated BIM is the right thing to be doing for yourselves and for your industry. So with that, I'd like to give you an introduction into M2, which we believe is the leading integrated 6D BIM cloud platform. And at the heart of everything that we do is talk about data, because data is really the new gold that we as an industry have at our disposal. But as I've mentioned before, we don't use it effectively. And it's really important that we enhance how we obtain data, how we analyze it, and how we share data so that we can make people more efficient, processes more efficient, and the use of the resources more efficient in our industry. Now, the challenge we face as an industry is that this is how data is typically managed in the industry, in silos across organizations, because we've got this toolset mentality where every role has its own tool. And these tools don't tend to be integrated with each other. As a consequence of this, we've got missing work, missing data, rework, manual work, outdated information, and really importantly, inefficient collaboration across organizations and across the value chain. And so we believe that M2 provides a really compelling solution to this challenge, where M2 is an integrated 6D BIM cloud platform, which enables organizations to manage the plan, build, and the operate phases of a construction environment with all the modules that are required for all stakeholders to be able to deliver their piece of the puzzle within one platform. And the platform is enabled with advanced technology like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, and of course at the heart of what we do is BIM and 6D BIM at that. And the benefits of this to enhanced connectivity is that our stakeholders and our users of the system gain real-time transparency into the information that they have at their disposal at all levels in a project, all the way from site to site agents, to project managers, up to the executive team in an organization. An integrated platform also breaks down silos in an organization and brings all the stakeholders around one table. So they're working off of one source of truth, and they're able to then streamline their workflows and automate processes because they're all working off of one backbone of data in the organization. And ultimately, it's about optimizing project outcomes through the use of simulation and intelligent control. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these things so that you can understand why we believe this is a solution that can save time and cost, ensure quality, and minimize risk for our clients. M2, at a starting point, at the pinnacle of everything we do, gives you insights into the information and data that you have. And we do this through our M2 Control Tower, which is a business intelligence solution that enables you to drill down into your data, be that cost, schedule, resource, business partner, quality and safety, and of course carbon information across all your projects, so that you've got a dashboard view of the world, a project on a page and an organization on the page, which is really powerful for decision makers to have the information they need at the tip of their hands. The second thing that M2 enables you to do is to manage all your projects on one platform because of the multi-project, multi-branch, multi-role capability within M2. It means that all the stakeholders come together, all the projects are managed in one place. So we've got one platform for all your projects. And really importantly is that M2 brings all the stakeholders in a project together. And this is the view, if you were an owner of an asset, how you would plan, build, and operate your project, where you are linking all your architects, your consulting firms, your engineers, your contractors and suppliers into one platform so that you've got visibility of their activity, their progress, your cost, your schedule as it's going. So it's a really powerful tool to bring everybody together. And then of course, within an organization, we enable company-wide collaboration, where within the platform, and as you can see the tiles on the slide there, each one of those tiles represents a module or a tool set for a particular user, be it an estimator, a BIM manager, a procurement manager, or your planners, quantity surveyors, and project managers. Everybody's got the tool that they need to do their business on one platform, but they're all working off of the same data so that we know that there's intense data integrity built into a solution like this. So let's talk a bit about how M2 enables end-to-end 6D BIM project management. And so the context that we're going to place today's discussion in is that across the plan, build, and operate phases of a project, you're able to bring your 3D models together, your 4D time components, your 5D cost components, and 6D carbon components to give an entire 6D project lifecycle management capability in one solution. And we believe that this is really unique in the industry today. There are many solutions that enable BIM in certain ways, but a fully integrated end-to-end solution is very unique and something that we're really proud of to be associated with. So let's start off along this plan, build, and operate journey. So we're in the planning phase, and so the first thing we need to do is manage the models and manage the drawings that we're working on. So M2 can bring both 2D drawings and 3D models into the M2 environment. And when we talk about 3D models, you can see the various types of technology that we support, Revit, Bentley, AutoCAD, etc. And what we can do with these different models is that we can synchronize them and create a federated model, be that from architecture, structural, or MEP models, bring them into M2, get to a federated model that we can then evaluate. How good is this model? Are there components missing? Are there, for example, slabs that haven't been segmented into different pores, that kind of thing? And we can start working on the model and preparing the model to do the next stages. So the first stage is really around bringing in your models and working with those models to make them better. Now that we've got our model, what we're able to do is then create builds of quantity and estimates off of the model, where in M2 we're able to link our libraries of elements of costs and profitability, etc., to the bills of quantity. So we're able to create a detailed estimate from first principles or a top-down estimate to get to a quick estimate. In this phase, we're not only managing costs, but we're also managing carbon footprint. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we do that. We then move into the quantity takeoff space, where we've now got our bill of quantity. We now need to link quantities to our VOQ structure. We now need to link quantities to that. And the way that we do that is either through a manual takeoff, but more importantly is through automated takeoff, where we have what we call flexible construction rules or construction libraries that we can link to the various attributes that exist within a 3D model. And we can automate that takeoff so that you can get quantities at different elements, be it at a level, be it a type of quantity, different types of materials, so that you've got a full view of the quantities that you need within your project. So we've now got our quantities, and now we need to plan. Who are we going to bring on board as our suppliers or our subcontractors? And this is where it's really important that we use what we call our business partner management capability, which is a database of our partners, but it's also a tool or an ERFQ solution to select our partners who are best fit the project. And so that's about vendor qualification and making sure that we've got the best supplier or best subcontractor on the project. It's also about performance evaluation. Once we've appointed a contractor, it's really important that we can evaluate their performance so that in future we know whether we want to work with them. Did they deliver the projects on time? Were they on budget? Did they do it to the quality and safety standards that we want? And then once we're building up this database of suppliers and vendors, we're able to start identifying relationships between them. And that's really powerful information for us. So you've now selected your suppliers. And now we need to develop our schedules. So we've got our quantities, we've got our estimate, and now we need to build our schedules. And M2 has a fully fledged scheduling solution within it, but given that the industry likes to standardize on MS Project and Primavera in many instances, we're able to integrate with those two solutions, both bringing data in and taking data out of the solution. And so we're able to manage your entire schedule within M2. And the importance of bringing this data comes to the fore in the next slide. And this is where the real magic in M2 happens. The ability to simulate construction before you're going onto site. So here on this graphic, you can see we've got our 3D model that is progressing, and you can see the time is progressing, and you can see how our cost curve is going up. And the consequence of this is that you're able to simulate construction before you go onto site. And as you know, changes that happen after you've started a construction project have a much higher cost impact and schedule impact on your projects going forward. So it's really important that we do as much simulation as possible before we go onto the construction site. The holy grail is really to have a digital twin before you go into construction. You've checked constructability, you've checked clashes, and you've optimized the solution, and you've compared different methodologies before you go onto site, so that when you go onto site, you execute according to the plan. That, of course, is not always practical, but this is really what the opportunity is for our industry going forward. So we've now moved on to the build phase of a project, and a solution like M2 enables us to control the project across multiple dimensions. Firstly, we've got to be able to progress our time and manage time. We need to manage our costs and understand the extent to which our actual costs are within budget or within our allowable, and understand the extent to which our costs to completion and at completion are changing, and we can make decisions on that. Of course, quality and safety are critical in any construction project, and through our tools like defect management, snag management, we're able to manage that quality and safety for you. And then finally, the ability to manage and control carbon. And I'll just pick up on that in the next couple of slides. And of course, quality and safety is really important for an organization in the construction industry. And one of the capabilities we have in the M2 platform is mobile capability, the ability to bring data from the core system and from the office to the site. And these are some of the use cases of our mobile capability in a quality environment. So for example, using our mobile app, you're able to take a recording of a defect. You can take a video or you can take a picture and then link that defect to a particular element in the model, so that then everybody has visibility of that model. And it's really fantastic to do that. And not only are you able to link it to the model, you're then able to allocate it to the responsible party to rectify the defect, be that your own team members or a subcontractor or a supplier to do that. And because you're working off one single database, you've got the ability to get great analysis into the number of defects you have, who's responsible for the defects, are they closed out, etc. And all this information is on your hands. And then the real beauty of starting this digital twin all the way from your model, through your estimate, through your time, through your schedule, is the ability to build a digital twin. And the ability then to have a digital handover from the build phase into the operations phase. So the facilities management team, the operators of the plants or buildings that we're operating in, have all the information that they need to successfully manage that project. And this is where new technology like our own i2FM and our plan-on solutions come in the operations phase, where you take this digital twin and manage your organization going forward. With that, I'd like to share a little bit more with you now how M2 contributes to carbon reduction. And before we get into a couple of slides, I'd like to share a short video with you.
This is our planet. This is us. These are the places where we live, work, learn, produce things, and entertain. We have a name for these places: buildings. While buildings house the world's 7.9 billion population, do we really know the industry we interact with every day? While $94 trillion in infrastructure investment is needed in the next 20 years alone, traditional construction methods cause tremendous waste and a huge carbon footprint. 38% of global annual carbon dioxide is produced by the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, which means 19 gigatons of CO2 needs to be reduced through joint effort. While the AEC industry employs 7% of the world's working population and contributes 13% of global GDP, the biggest industry is also the least digitalized one. As a result, 30% of rework performed by construction companies leads to 6 gigatons of unnecessary carbon emission damage to our Earth. We must change the status quo towards decarbonization led by digital transformation. M2 connects all stakeholders, processes, and data along the AEC industry value chain. From supply chain, planning, construction, to maintenance, M2 supports decarbonization throughout the building lifecycle. Before a project's physical construction, M2 runs a detailed 6D building information modeling virtual simulation, connecting the 3D BIM model with 4D time factor, 5D cost information, and 6D carbon factor, so that stakeholders can optimize the design, schedule, and carbon emission while reducing rework and the waste of CO2-intensive building materials. As clean energy is being increasingly adopted by the AEC industry, M2 also connects their smart devices to further optimize energy use. By improving site logistics, supply chain, and business partner management with M2, the environmental impact of on-site activities can also be reduced, and CO2-intensive material waste can be kept to a minimum. Business partners that meet the green building standards will be connected to the platform, empowering building projects to achieve the best carbon footprint outcome. RIB and RIB CCS are teaming up to support large enterprises and SME in the industry and their related supply chain with cloud, software platform, and consulting services to roll out M2 to the African market. Sustainable building investment represents one of the biggest global investment opportunities of the next decade, with an estimated 24.6 trillion by 2030. 1% reduction in construction costs could save $100 billion globally. M2 helps construction projects achieve up to 30% overall savings, resulting in 6 gigatons of reduction in carbon dioxide. The M2 construction digital twin data will be the most valuable asset for the next level of decarbonization. From reducing carbon emissions in the midterm to achieving net zero as the goal, M2 supports the AEC ecosystem. Running together, we build a net zero future for the next generation.
Great. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and it really emphasizes the significant opportunity that exists for us as an industry to make a contribution to lowering carbon emissions. So this is how we believe that we can help here. So on the left-hand side, you can see some of the carbon problems that we face as an industry. You know, concrete alone accounts for 6 to 10% of global CO2 emissions. You know, we as an industry waste about 10% of the materials that we use on site, which is an incredible amount of waste. And as much as 30% of activities in the industry results in tasks having to be redone. And so we believe that by using integrated 5D BIM solutions like M2, by simulating activities before we go on site, by simulating the carbon footprint of our construction projects, and by then managing those projects better and with more control and with a lens of carbon to this, we can lead to less concrete being used, less rework, less waste as an organization. And the impact of that is certainly going to be well felt across the industry. And so across the plan, build and operate phases of a construction project, we can reduce carbon by engaging our material suppliers to reduce the carbon that's embedded in the materials that they are, and selecting suppliers with low carbon footprints. We can choose better logistics processes by lowering the amount of transportation that goes into bringing materials to site. We can work with contractors who are willing and able to minimize rework, minimize waste, and lower carbon footprint. And ultimately, it's about working with the building users, the owners of the assets, so that we can reduce carbon during the operations phase. And we do this through 3 key things. 1, quantifying the carbon footprint, optimizing that carbon footprint, and then monitoring that carbon footprint so that we can collectively contribute to a carbon net zero position in 2050. So how do we do this? The starting point is quantifying the carbon. And we use our cost calculation technology that I spoke to before, the ability to create bills of quantities and estimates based on different line items and different resources. By then using environmental product declarations and the environmental elements that are associated with those various products, by connecting them to line items in our model, and actually more importantly, connecting it to elements in the model, which is really key, and that's a key differentiator. And so you've now got this carbon calculation, so at least you know how much are you using or about to use in your project. We're then able to qualify our material suppliers to minimize the embodied carbon in them through our business partner management capability, where you're selecting your vendors on different metrics, be that ESG compliance, be that the percentage of new energy that's used in their manufacturing and production processes, and their distances from site, so that you can lower the transportation of that. And through these kind of evaluation criteria, over and above quality, of course, and cost, you're able to select the best vendor for your project so that you're able to minimize the embodied carbon going into your projects. We then bring this all together in our simulation where we can optimize the carbon footprint of our projects. And we do this by simulating different alternatives and comparing different alternatives. If we use this supplier with this carbon footprint, this price, what is the impact on our total cost and also on our budget? And by doing 60 BIM simulation, we're able to optimize resource use on our sites. Not only is it about optimizing cost and time, but it's also optimizing your 60 elements of sustainability and carbon in a project. And then of course, once you move onto the construction site, is the ability to monitor your carbon footprint. Just like you're monitoring actual costs versus budgeted costs, you're monitoring actual carbon footprint to what you've allocated, if I could call it that, on your project. And it's really important to be able to control carbon as you would a cost or a time element. And of course, through dashboarding, you're able to get great insight into your information and make informed decisions based on the real information that you have. And so ultimately, through a proactive approach of quantifying, optimizing, and monitoring your carbon footprint on projects across the plan, build, and operate phases of the construction project, we as an industry can contribute significantly to a reduction in carbon, not only directly in our projects, but indirectly through the way that the assets are used later on in construction. So with that, I'd just like to conclude by sharing with you why we believe M2 is a leading construction player and an innovative solution to the industry. So the first thing that stands out is that legacy software often doesn't take sustainability considerations into play at all. Whereas we as an organization, as I've just illustrated, is through M2, we're bringing 60 simulation and sustainability to the floor so that we can build a lower carbon and a more sustainable world into the future. Many legacy systems focus entirely on 2D and 3D capability. What I've demonstrated to you today is how we are taking an end-to-end integrated approach to BIM by bringing together your 3D models, your time and your cost to give you 5D BIM so that you can visualize and optimize your time and your cost. As we've spoken about, one of the real issues faced by the industry is this use of fragmented tools that aren't integrated, leading to silos, leading to lack of collaboration, leading to a wasted resource and data in our environment. And so what we bring as an integrated platform is hyper-efficient collaboration, the ability for all stakeholders within businesses and across the value chain to collaborate to more efficiently deliver projects to our clients. And as you can see, because of fragmented tools, we've got a huge amount of unstructured data that's sitting there. There's a lack of standardization in terms of coding structures. There's a lack of standardization in terms of workflows. And through M2's data management, data analytics capabilities of AI and BI, we turn big data into smart information, giving our clients the right information at the right time so that they can make the best decisions for their project, and to be able to do that proactively, looking into a crystal ball rather than looking into a rearview mirror. And then finally, we bring cloud and mobility first to M2, whereas many legacy solutions are desktop applications. And by having a cloud and mobility first strategy, we give access to this vital data and information anywhere at any time in a highly secured environment. And with cybersecurity becoming a more and more important topic, having this kind of capability is critical to sustainability of organizations. So with that, I trust that you've been able to get an insight into how we believe that we as technology providers and as BIM practitioners in many ways contribute to a more sustainable world through the use of 60 BIM. And it really is a privilege for us to have been part of BIM Harambee, and we wish you the very best of the rest of the course of today. Thank you very much.